Yeah. Commissioner Hoffman calling to order the regular meeting of the Bureau of Public Works on Wednesday, October 23rd, 4 PM. The first item of business is to recognize any folks from the public wishing to make any comment at this point. And seeing none, we'll go on to item number 3, approval of the meeting minutes from the previous meeting in August. We need a motion.
Adoption.
Thank you. And the second,
Second.
all in favor of the minutes as presented, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, unanimous. Number 4. The item on number 4 is a report that essentially we'll listen to and probably accept without question. But go ahead, Mr. Boss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
So there's, who's giving this report? On the sewer?
I can
Right.
speak to.
So, one thing that we wanted to make clear this year, there's a number of rates that the board has already approved, but we have not implemented for a number of reasons. And one example, as you remember, in 2019, I believe, we added the sewer user charge for sewer services. So that $9, and that $9 represents about $9+ million a year in revenue that lowers ad valorem, and that's partly the reason why we've been able to stabilize ad valorem. But I wanted the BPW and the Water Bureau to realize that there's some rates that we haven't been charging that we're going to start to charge because we've done our due diligence now to identify those types of properties that should have been charged. We're not going backwards, but we're just reminding everybody that this might have been approved 2 or 3 years ago, but now we're going to start charging because we have the data now to charge that customer. So with that, Kelly, you're going to go.
We were actually going to have Craig Scott first talk
Perfect.
about the MIU-SIU
Perfect.
program,
Yep.
and then Jason Breetemps and I are going to talk about the sewer only
Okay.
and the condo multiple
Perfect.
laterals,
Okay.
sewer connection charges.
Great.
And then I will finish it off with a couple of rate changes. We only really had a couple of rate changes on the sewer side, so I'll finish it up with just an explanation of those. So I'm going to
Perfect.
turn it over to Craig Scott from our EH&S department.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Craig, just introduce yourself because you're not here very often, so.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Craig Scott. I'm the manager of EH&S.
So EH&S is environmental health and safety, so all of our regulatory permitting, air permits, water quality permits, safety, all of that stuff falls under Craig. MS4, he is the champion of MS4. So that's a big one. We've added 2 staff this coming year just to be able to manage the MS4 issues.
All right, very good. Thank you. So I'm going to cover a summary of the DEP wastewater permits that we deal with. We have the groundwater remediation wastewater permit, the significant industrial user wastewater permit, the miscellaneous industrial user, individual wastewater permits, and we also have a high-strength, high-flow program. So for groundwater remediation permits, those are used for discharging treated groundwater to our sewer. Typically temporary discharges, less than 50,000 gallons per day. Those are used for like remediation of wastewater from digging up underground storage tanks, things like that. I'll have consultants contact us. And it's a DEP permit, so they need our sign off on it before they can begin discharging. So I coordinate with tech services to make sure there's enough sewer capacity, and then coordinate with utility services for a radio frequency flow meter to be installed so that we can bill the customer for that discharge. I include customer services with that, and the discharge fee is 13 cents per gallon. If there is a large discharge for groundwater that's greater than 500,000 gallons per day, then we have a discount for that. Goes down to 7 cents, and then above 700,000 gallons, it goes down to 5 cents. Once all the flow meters installed, the customer services go, then we provide an approval from EH&S. And then this is a variable income for each year, depending on who requires to discharge groundwater. Oh, do you have a question?
Yeah. Can you give some typical example of those people who want that service?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Example of the groundwater, so East Hartford, Pratt & Whitney
So
pays.
Pratt & Whitney, for example, is a continuous discharger of our groundwater.
The state of Connecticut, which doesn't pay.
Yeah.
They're good non-payers. So both the garage at Buckingham, and thank you, Buckingham in Washington, and the landfill is another example of those. And as Chris Stone mentioned, Triumph, which is at the retrieving shaft of the tunnel, they also pay. Are they still paying?
No,
No. So it's go ahead, you can explain.
yeah, so they finished their remediation of their groundwater, and so they closed out the permit for that facility. But Pratt & Whitney, they have groundwater from dewatering all their buildings and things like that. DEP would not allow them to discharge that into the Connecticut River, so they had no other option but to discharge into the sewer.
The goal of, I'm sorry, the goal of this program was really intended as a remediation program, not forever. You know, it was, once you clean up your site, whether it's a gas station, what have you, and then you no longer need to discharge that contaminated water to us, then the permit ends.
Correct.
Commissioner DeBello.
Scott, my understanding, we did that with Pratt & Whitney.
Correct.
Is that still
Yes.
in existence? Because that's got to be, what, 7 or 8 years now we've been doing that.
Yeah, and yes, and so the Pratt & Whitney.
Because it's a manufacturing facility and it keeps discharging?
Well, there's a bunch of reasons. One of the reasons is DEEP allowed Pratt & Whitney to discharge stormwater to our system without our knowledge. So that was a problem. And but I hate to say this, but the low flow in East Hartford is actually helps the plant, but they're paying for it. So they're paying the rate.
That was a discounted rate.
Yeah, and the discount rate, and I think it's $4 million a year, roughly,
Something like that.
about 4 million. So we had that negotiation way back when, right? We were about 5 years ago, and we were going to charge them 8 million, and then they said, well, maybe we just go and build our own treatment plant, and that's when we created the new rate structure to give them a break, and they're happy to pay it, so we're good.
And we gave the state a break.
We get everybody a break. Yep.
And still
They
not
still don't
paying. At least Pratt & Whitney's paying.
That's right.
Just a
Commissioner
question.
Torres.
You mentioned that we passed this, but we didn't implement the charging.
I apologize, Commissioner, not for this one. This one we have implemented. The MIU program that Craig's going to get into is different. It's different, similar, but it's different. It's a different. If you remember, we talked about DEEP.
Well, the question I want to get at is, once we discuss this and we decide and vote to go move it forward, if that's the case, is this going to be retroactive?
No, no. So Craig's just mentioning some of the programs. This is the SIU program. He's going to talk about the MIU program. The MIU program is similar but different, and it's a typical Deep, love Deep to death, but what they did, like with the dams. So they used to have a program where they inspected the dams. They had staff that went out there, inspected every 5 years, all those good things. And then they said to all of us that owns dams, sorry, you're responsible. You hire an engineering firm, you submit us a report that says it's okay, and we're good. This MIU program that Craig's gonna talk about is similar. They were in charge of permitting this stuff. They were doing all the paperwork, all the administrative, and then they said to people like us, POTWs, sorry, we're not doing it anymore. You do it. We had no knowledge of who these people were, what businesses, 1,600 businesses. So it took us a long time to kind of figure out who those people are, who those businesses are. But Craig hasn't gotten there yet.
Yeah, excuse me, didn't Deep turn over a list of people to us if they weren't doing it?
No, we had to find our way through that process, but we're now there, and we've already got the board's approval to charge for this, but we haven't been charging at a massive scale because we didn't have the data to know who they were. And when we find them, we identify them, but we just wanted to remind the commission that this is a charge that was already approved. We just haven't, gone full bore on it.
Very good.
You couldn't validate it to protect.
Well, we didn't even know who they were.
That's what I'm saying.
Commissioner, we didn't even know what businesses. So a lot of due diligence from people in the office here and elsewhere to find these entities.
Correct. So the significant industrial users, we knew these facilities. The industrial facilities is wastewater greater than 25,000 gallons per day, and any metal finishing facilities. We do have quite a bit of metal finishing, about 8 facilities of metal finishing facilities in our district. Requires an approval by EH&S for them because they need to prepare a permit application and submit that to DEEP, but they need the write-off from MDC in order to file for that permit because they are significant. We have 20 registered facilities, and we started implementing a monthly fee of $12.50 starting September 1st of this year. So our annual income from these facilities will be about $3,000 from the monthly fee.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, could you, all right, so you said annual income would be about $3,000. I mean, what, is that the total income to the district or what? I mean,
Correct, 150 from each facility will come out to $3,000 annually.
and I mean, is that
But some of
cover
these,
the cost of
well, some of
doing
these,
it?
this is just for this specific permit. Some of these facilities are also covered under the high strength, high flow program that we have. So we bill them based on their strength as well. For some of them we don't because they're metal finishing facilities.
But the other customers you talked about, which I'm familiar with, the first slide, is metered, and we know, they pay by the gallon or cubic foot by the gallon or something for this. So that's not happening here. This is just a fee an annual fee that they pay?
Correct.
Okay.
Based on volume, it's.
No, it's just a permitting fee.
The permit fee. Yes?
All these 20 companies, they have their own waste treatment system, so everything's it's already treated. This is just a permit to say would connect them. Isn't that all?
No.
You're not treating this stuff, right?
Yes.
Really?
Going through our source.
Well, some of them have, for metal finishing
Maybe
facilities,
pre-treatment.
they have, pre-treatment.
But it's coming to us.
No, but I say
Yeah.
it should be coming to you relatively clean, so there's basically a connection fee so you can make sure they don't screw up. I guess that's probably.
The limits, why don't you talk about the limits, industrial versus connecting to us?
Sure. So for instance, for these permits, for the SIU permit, the BOD limit is 600 from DEP, but our limit is 300 milligrams per liter. So they may meet the DEP limit, but they may be charged a surcharge of BOD based on their strength.
And Craig, somebody knows this number, I don't, but how much do we make in revenue on the high strength revenue? It's a lot of money. Do we know?
Well, I'll get into that, but from last year, there was $616,000 from
Revenue.
revenue, but some of that is rebated per the town ad valorem tax.
So this is the most complicated system we have, and since I've been here, I've asked 1,000 ways. There's got to be a way to simplify it. In 1988, Vice Chairman Bill DeBella always talks about this ad valorem issue, right? So we were told, all the utilities were told to get rid of ad valorem, and unless you could keep ad valorem, but you had to have you had to develop a system that would fairly charge the large taxpayers in a town to the equivalency of what they're really using for sewer. So, for example, and I don't pretend to know these numbers are right, but I would guess in Hartford, about 1% to 2% of your taxes on your home is associated with the cost of providing you sewer service to your home. But if Travelers is paying mega amounts of taxes, they're saying, well, my sewer user is minimal compared to what I'm paying in taxes. So this requirement in 1988 by the federal government was you had to have implement a high user to fairly charge, just like identical to what happens at the landfill. What are you actually sending to the sewer system at the MDC to be fairly charged? And that's what Craig's talking about. We have a calculation that says, okay, here's how much you're paying in taxes, but you really your sewer consumption is much less than that ratio. So we have to give them a credit. But the net revenue for the program is about $600,000 from last year.
Last year, yeah.
And this is all part of that. These permits are all part of that.
And then just to give you an idea of the SIU permits, some examples are Coca-Cola in East Hartford, Pepperidge Farms, Niagara Bottling Company, Airmac, which is a commercial laundry facility. So those are kind of significant industrial users.
Further questions for Craig?
He's got to get to the he's got to get
I'm not
to
done
that.
yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Started. We
Just
just
started.
I heard
Page
the
one.
pause.
I
heard the pause.
wish.
It's all right. It's good.
getting us warmed up.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so the next one, we have the miscellaneous industrial user permit applies to permits or facilities less than 25,000 gallons per day of industrial wastewater and all vehicle maintenance facilities. Requires notification to the POTW. As Scott was saying, prior to this permit, notification was submitted to DEEP. But now NDC receives those notification forms. It only applies to facilities that are 1,000 to 25,000 gallons per day. In the previous permits, DEEP wanted all the any facility. So now, if you're less than 1,000 gallons per day, you don't have to register with MDC. So right now, we have 170 registered facilities. There are approximately 500 unregistered facilities that we need to go through and identify which ones fell into that 1,000 to 25,000 gallon per day range. Most of them don't, but the ones that do, we have to identify them so that we can put them into our program. So we're going to implement the monthly fee similar to the SIUs of $12.50. And those notifications will begin in 2025 with an approximate income of $25,500.
So, if I may, so the reason why we're bringing this up, so that the board understands it, we'll talk about this at Board of Finance as well, is so you might get a phone call from someone like a garage, right?
Garage,
Gas station,
sure.
and says, hey, I got this new bill, and it's on and I don't understand why, right? And this is exactly this bill that was already approved, but we haven't been able to document and identify those individuals yet.
Correct.
But we're going to notify our customers.
Oh, absolutely,
Yes.
there's a process, but we gotta first find them, right? And once we find them, then we go through the process of notifying them about what it is and why.
But how many customers did you say would fall into that category?
Well, we got 170 already registered. There's 500 of them that we have to identify, additional 500 that we have to identify whether or not they're,
Aren't
need-
they also, those additional 500 you haven't identified, they have to report to DEEP, don't they?
they do not unless, because they're less than 1,000 gallons.
1,000 gallons.
So Deep's left it up to us to go find them, Fortunately.
Doesn't Deep have they probably don't know who
think.
they are either.
you'd think.
I would think that they would know, but
One quick question. Does the 25 grand cover the effort it takes for us to do all this?
Well, Craig,
I didn't hear the question.
does 25 grand cover the cost to administer this?
Correct. My time to identify, review the reports and notifications that they provide, look at any treatment systems they may have. For instance, the vehicle maintenance facility should have oil water
This
separators.
looks like a lot of work for 25 grand, that's all. I'm
It
saying.
is, it is.
It's just,
Yeah, it
we're
is.
required to do it though, so there's no,
We have to. They've punted. Deep's punted on the responsibility, so they've left it up to, not just us, this is every
And I
wastewater
understand.
treatment plant in Connecticut.
Correct.
Chairman Curry.
Thank you. And I would agree with you, but just keep in mind, this is not a one-time shot. This is the investment we're spending now. We're going to collect these fees and maybe even possibly increase them over the years without doing the work again.
but every year you're gonna have to do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just saying, 25 grand isn't very much.
In 100 years, it'll add up.
And to be fair, as we say, we're always trying to fairly charge the cost of service. So whatever our staff does, it should be properly charged to whatever activity they're doing. So we might find next year, commissioners, that this isn't enough, that we're spending too much time on this, and we might ask you to raise the rates in 2026. So we'll go from there.
would we think about putting flow meters into certain people that we think are
On the MIUs, do you use flow meters, Craig, or no?
Really not. Vehicle maintenance facilities don't have flow meters on their wastewater discharge, only flow meters on their water usage.
No, I'm saying in the event that we thought they were using significantly more, discharging significantly more.
We would have to look at the water records to determine how much they're actually
That's what I'm
using.
saying.
Yeah.
That'd still be an option for us.
Correct. So the next one is individual wastewater permits. So these are special facilities where DEP, the facility didn't fit into a specific permit that DEP has, so they had to write an individual permit for that facility. So right now, there's 15 permitted facilities that DEP has. For example, some of them are Connecticut Transit, Saputo, UPS, Jacobs Vehicle, the Hartford Landfill. These are all kind of unique facilities that they haven't transferred into the SIU permit yet, or DEP hasn't required them to do that. And we don't have a billing structure other than water usage for those facilities. Next is the high-strength, high-flow.
Hey, hang on one second.
Craig, one
Yes.
second.
Craig, please. Commissioner Curry.
Mr. Craig, Craig, could you tell us why, could you go back a slide
Sure.
or not? Can you tell us why DEP is not allowing that to go into MDC's SIU program?
Some of these facilities applied for a permit back in 2019. By the time the DEP issued the SIU permit, which was 2020, they had already issued the individual permit for some of these facilities. So the facility already paid their permit application, and so they don't want to, and they were issued a valid permit. So once that permit is up in 5 years, probably next year, they will have to apply for a new permit through DEEP. And there's like a $6,000 cost for that permit application. So they wouldn't want to double down on that.
Oh, it's just a matter of they don't want to lose the money over the next 1 or 2 years.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So next is the high-strength, high-flow program we have. So this applies to 22 wastewater facilities that we have. That includes SIUs and individual permits. These are for flows greater than 25,000 gallons per day. They are billed based on their BOD, COD, and TSS values that they sample, and then we charge them per the rate that's listed there. Finance manages that. They receive the annual results, they look at the flow usage from the facility, and then they bill the facility based on that information. So for this year, or for 2024, we've received $616,387,000. And it's based on the 2023 results that they received from those facilities. And like I said, we're waiting on rebates based on the town ad valorem tax. So our next steps, we need to notify the MIU customers and identify the unregistered facilities, and then implement that fee notification to the MIU facilities that we have. Apply the monthly discharge fee, and I'll be working with customer service on that. And implement that discharge fee for those facilities. And then we also need to implement a discharge fee for facilities requesting a variance of our discharge limits. So our limits might be a little bit lower in our ordinances versus the DEP permit. So we can charge for those facilities for BOD, COD in order to issue a variance on that permit. We need to implement a discharge fee for facilities based on the pollutant in the flow. We're looking at specifically nitrogen. We have to pay a nitrogen fee to the state for our water pollution control facilities. So we're going to be looking at some of these dischargers that have high nitrogen and see if we can charge them and offset that cost. And then we're going to continue reviewing the fee for the facilities with low flow, high strength. For example, we have Simonize and Rocky Hill that requested a discharge permit from us this year. And they had a high strength, but didn't meet the high flow requirement. So we were able to allow them to discharge to us at a higher strength but a lower flow. And I worked with customer service to get that done. And that's it.
Commissioner DeBella.
To the Chief Executive Officer, is this a motion to refer to Board of Finance? Is that what the?
No, we're just reminding the commissioners and the Board of Finance that this charge was approved in what year? 19? MIU?
Oh, the MIU is 2020.
2020. So obviously we're in COVID, but the rate's been approved and we've implemented over 170 some odd that we found. But because we now have the data and we're going to start to aggressively go after and identify those remaining 500, we just want the board to remind themselves that this is not a new charge this year.
That'll go into this budget.
It's in this budget, but the rate's already been, we're not changing the rate, it's already been pre-approved in 2020. It's just a reminder, that's all.
Yeah, we don't have to take any action at this point,
Nope.
but to accept the report
Because it's in the budget.
so
Yeah.
far.
Great, thank you, Craig.
All right, thank you.
I think our action is, Mr. Chairman, that when we receive calls from
Yeah, that's
customers
why we're
that
getting-
wonder why, we
Yes.
can give them John Myrtle's name and number.
That's right.
oh, giving Scott jealousy.
Well,
John's gonna give it to Scott.
Yes, yes. Yes, Kelly.
So to continue this agenda item, I'm Kelly Shane, Chief Administrative Officer, and with me is Jason Breetemps, Manager of the Command Center and Utility Services. And jointly, we want to share with you an update. Again, this is a report on an update on a program that we've been working on. I think the last time Chris Levesque presented on this topic was in May of '23. We had presented to you the fact that we had found that we have some residential customers that have sewer service that we didn't have in our system. And we didn't know the full magnitude of that across the district. And we also were sharing with you that, we have condo associations where we charge one customer service fee to the condo association, but they have multiple sewer connections to each and every unit within their condo association. Some have up to 70 units. We service all of those laterals, all of those sewer connections. So we looked into how to bring all of those services into the billing realm, some through new customers, adding new customers. And now we've done an inventory, and I'm going to let Jason talk about that inventory and this update. And then we'll talk about where we are today and how we're going to start, how we're going to let our customers know, new and current, and then start billing for the customer service charges starting in January.
And Kelly, just to clarify, the board approved in 2020, what's the date? For the multiple laterals.
Yep. I'm not sure which.
Is that 2022? Yeah, so just to be clear, though, the board's already approved. We have properties with multiple sewer services, the hospitals as an example, but we're only charging one customer service charge. And so the board approved, the ordinances say one address, one service. So what we're proposing is to to continue with the already approved ordinances that we're going to charge. Now that we've identified, we're going to charge people who have just a sewer service, no water, because we don't have a customer service account with that property, but they do have a sewer service. They're going to have a new customer service account, and they're going to get charged $9. And then anybody else who has multiple services will be charged $9 times each service. Right? And that, I don't know what the date was, but it was approved by the board. We can find out whatever that date was. Okay, sorry, Jason.
No problem. Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. So this project, we started about a year ago, and we first started with all of our sewer-only customers. So parts of Bloomfield, Newington, even East Hartford, you will find some areas that don't have a water main. People are still on wells. The water main never made it to that area. So that was our first approach on the four-step process. We looked at our GIS, we looked at our block maps of all the towns to figure out where we saw our water versus sewer and where our sewer was. So we identified those properties, which are mostly single-family houses. In the event, like in Newington, it's serviced by another water company, which is the 8th Street area. So we identified those properties as our first step in this. Once we identified those, we then moved on to our SAP into GEF Explorer. And I don't want to get too technical tonight, but what we did is we went through SAP to figure out who's getting a water bill. So once you get out into the far northern part of the district, Windsor, Bloomfield, and even into like East Granby area, way up there by the airport, you're going to find that there are still some customers on wells. So that was the next thing that we were looking for in SAP. And like I said, I don't want to get too technical. We look for the connection object and the premise. So then we can identify very quickly is if the customer is connected to our system without researching every record within open text to figure out every house on a street, because you could be into this for many years by the time you're completed. The next step we did was once we compiled all that information, we then went into the town's GIS and we compared their address with the property records of what we had to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples. And then that way we can identify if a condo complex similar to like Balbray and West Hartford Bloomfield line, you have two large water services that go to the property, But like Scott was saying, you're going to have 70 laterals. So we then moved on, and then we took the property addresses by confirming the house connection records with our record plans. So sometimes we've inherited or acquired sewer systems that were never built by the MDC. So it's tough to verify if the customer's hooked up or not. So what we did was we compared our records with the old records, the new stuff, and getting into houses to see what customers were out there.
So how many of those, Jason, do we have, just sewer-only customers?
Sewer only, you're looking at about 2,709 right now. And this is running concurrent with LCRR, which is also auditing the sewer house connection records. But like I said, it's a little tough when you're dealing with records of a system that you acquired, like West Hartford, Hartford, and parts of East Hartford that were developed prior to the MDC's inception.
So can I clarify that? I thought there's 596 sewer-only.
Well,
I can clarify that.
And then multiple laterals, you got 2,000.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Residential and
yeah.
commercial customers that only have a sewer connection
Yeah.
is about
596.
600, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Just to make sure.
Yep.
Okay, fine, thank you. So you will have about 600 people mad as hell saying, I'm getting a $9 bill from the MDC. I've never gotten that before. Well, that's because you didn't have a customer service account. And the only way we set up a customer service account is if you have a water service. The system was never set up for sewer only. But now that we've identified those, we're going to be requiring customers to have a customer service account for just sewer. And it's going to be $9 a month.
correct.
Okay. And then there's 2,000 customers that have multiple sewer services, and they're going to be charged $9 times every service that they have.
Commissioner Salemi has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my question is, you went through all the records and everything. You said some of these things were built before the weren't built to be connected to the MDC. They were maybe connected to something else, and then some of them are old. I know you said that we had voted to do this. I don't, if you can at some point tell us when we did. But my question is, when you went through the records, are all the assessments paid for these? I mean, you have to pay an assessment plus a connection charge. For a new house or a new business, you're going to pay the linear foot, assessment plus the connection charge to the thing, so.
Yeah, hi, Dave Reddy, Director of Operations. To answer your question, all these connections were verified through permits, were permitted and would have gone through the assessment process. We would not have permitted the connections and allowed the connections without the assessments being satisfied. So they are all permitted connections that we reviewed, so they were approved by the district.
So let me ask you this though, Dave. So I understand what you're saying, but we said that we acquired some of these from somewhere else.
But it's still a permitted connection. If West Hartford issued.
They paid the assessment to the MDC, or they paid it to someone else and we acquired it?
So when we took over the West Hartford system, all the buildings were already connected. So they were satisfied through that connection process through West Hartford. We didn't go back and assess them again. Those were approved connections through that process prior to the MDC taking that system.
All right. So all I'm saying is, so we're sure that all of these customers we're talking about have paid an assessment, that they've paid an assessment.
Yes.
Okay.
Further questions here?
Accepted it.
Commissioner Drake?
Is there any chance that we have the same problem flipped around, or sewer always is first? That someone has water and no sewer, and they're not paying for the water.
Well, we do have people not paying for their water, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's being funny, but we have that, right? They have water, they're not paying, they get on the shut-off list. We set up payment
It's
plans.
just like this, but flipped, so.
Well, so if we do have customers with just water and no sewer, do we know the number there?
I don't have that number on me, no.
Yeah, okay.
No,
Would we
it's-
do the same exercise with that or not, I don't know.
Well,
those
you-
would be non-member towns for the most part.
Yeah, well, you might have something in Bloomfield as well.
Bill, you have
Um,
a significant.
Yeah, the customer service account is set up, you can't get a water service without a customer service account. So anyone who has MDC water, now I can't say that because in 2006, we had 40,000 estimated bills and we had multiple homes in Glastonbury and later developed areas that had meters or didn't have meters and we didn't even know it. So we cleaned all that up, right, with the RF program. Now we have less than 500 or less than 100.
Almost less than 200.
Less than 200. So it's immaterial at this point. But anyone who has water service has a customer service account.
Further,
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Mandike,
Van Dyke, thank you.
I have two questions on this. My calculations, I don't know if they're correct, the way that I'm looking at it, but this should be about a revenue of about $291,000 into the district if we assume that we're 100% collectible.
Yeah, it's 9 times 12
Times the 2,700, so roughly about almost $300,000 if we can completely collect it per year. And then my second question is, what kind of education and outreach are we doing before people start to see bills in the mail? Because this is going to be a big-time education, not only for the people receiving the bill, but also making sure town councilors, city councilors, and managers in the towns understand that this is going to happen, because that phone's going to start to ring.
Correct. Not just at the town halls, at the customer service department.
Yeah.
So honestly, to be selfish, we're more concerned about our customer service agents to deal with this. So we're gonna do a public outreach with Nick and Julie, press releases and letters so that we clearly outline this issue for not just the board members, council members, town officials as well.
And last thing, if I could, Mr. Chair, I think it would be extremely helpful if staff could prepare a one-pager for commissioners, so we understand what this and what are our talking points on this. So we've got all the information available to us, so we don't,
And we're doing
so
that
we
for,
understand it and can communicate it when.
absolutely, and we're doing that for customer service as well. So the staff, customer service staff, will provide the same document that we're providing to customer service.
Another question? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Gale. What's the interplay between this $9 per month and the, I guess it's the Clean Water Act surcharge? I mean, we, as a residential customer, right, we're all getting, I'm getting a surcharge on my bill that I think is a function of the sewer side of it as opposed to the water side of it. I'm not sure about that, but how does this $9 relate to
Yeah,
any of that?
so Commissioner, if you may remember, and I'm gonna guess, but I wanna say 2017, maybe, before COVID. It might have been 2018. The board chose what we talk about cost of service, right? So as you know, you pay for an employee 100%, no matter what they do all day, right? So you're paying for that. The customers are paying for that. But what we try to do, cost of services, but what are they actually working on? And then we properly charge the correct amount for that person or that project, whatever it might be, to the right cost of service. So in 2000, and I wish I remember this number, but I think it's 2018, we came to the board and we said, look, there's a lot of customer service work that we do on the general sewer side that traditionally is charged to ad valorem. So for example, Mrs. Jones calls in the middle of the night and says, I got sewer backup in my basement. And, or their sewer lateral is broke and it's leaking in the yard. Anything related to private property activity should not be paid for by ad valorem. The town shouldn't pay for it, right? It's private property. So cost of service. So what we said was, we initially started in 2000, either 17 or 18, $3. then we went to $6, then we went to $9. And that was to compensate the towns to reduce, that $9 comes directly off the ad valorem. So $9 million plus or minus is removed directly. It's a revenue stream paid for by the customer, private property owner, and it's directly removed from ad valorem. So the towns are paying X minus $9 million, and that's a revenue stream.
Comes out of their tax.
And so, but it's meant to properly charge for the proper cost of service that we're serving. You know, someone would say, I fixed my lateral last year. I paid all this money to fix it. And you're out fixing someone's lateral, and you're out there in the middle of the night TVing, and you're working with contractors, and all of that time and material is being charged to ad valorem. And so I'm paying twice. I am a good steward. I'm a customer. I paid for my sewer lateral because, as you know, the ordinance says you own the sewer lateral from the house to the main. It's your job to maintain the lateral, rot it every year, all that good stuff. So if someone doesn't do that, and then we have to support that service, calling at 2 o'clock in the morning, going out there, the town, before we implemented the customer service charge, was paying for that under ad valorem. And so, as I said, 3 years in a row, $3. We're at $9. That's a total of $9 million, roughly 102,000 customers times 9 is and so we also, if you remember the Raftellus study, the town said, listen, we want to study the cost of service. We want to know exactly how much the user cost is by town. And so, in addition, when the towns voted to do that, and the board chose to do that, and we paid Raftellus more money to do that, I also asked them at the time, also look at what should the customer service charge be on the bill for this very logic, and they recommended it should go up to $28.
Yes.
Yeah,
in
$28.
that recommendation, yeah.
So we're at 9. The Raftellus said you really should be charging 28. We've chosen not to do that, but that's in part, that's just one activity that we've done to alleviate the burden on the towns for ad valorem.
Yes, I get that. Now, what's the relationship to the Clean Water?
The Clean Water Act is different, separate, completely separate. The customer service charge for the clean water charge for the Clean Water Project is, we're proposing it to be $4.57 this year. It was $4.24.
33 last year.
$4.33.
I mean, this year, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This year,
Yeah. So it's going up 24 cents.
24.
Yep.
Yeah, so my question is, these 2,700 customers have never been paying that charge either.
No.
But they don't, but they, remember, by ordinance, the board chose the only way you pay the clean water surcharge is if you have both water and sewer and you're a member town.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have someone in Bloomfield that has water only or sewer only, but you have to have both to get charged.
Thank you.
This is a correction.
One issue.
Per connection, end of 20, so it's effective 21.
Okay, so I'm sorry. So John's saying, I'm sorry. John said that the board approved the end of 20, the per sewer connection, so it was effective January 2021.
Commissioner DeBoe.
The free lateral program will go into this program eventually, or is it in it now?
So it was approved and effective January of 2021. We're just going to now start to charge for it because we didn't have the data to charge for it.
So we'll pick that up in what?
This coming year, 2025.
What's it, $3,000?
No, that's $9 times.
No, not the $9. The charge for a lateral can't exceed X. Was it $10,000?
We
Yeah,
currently have that program.
That's a different program though, right? So that's,
But it's going to be funded out of the same source, isn't it?
well, so remember the new sewer lateral, free new sewer lateral is a separate program, and that's funded out of either the IP projects, the integrated planning projects or a capital project. So one of the two, it'll be funded through the debt service.
Okay, similar to the Clean Water Project.
Correct.
Except,
One more follow-up, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Please.
On that, I don't think I was part of the board at the time, but when we agreed that the Clean Water Act only applied to people who got both water and sewer, did we know we had 2,700 people who were sewer only?
Yes. All I would tell you is in 2008, I wasn't, I was the chief operating officer at the time, but in 2008, I know that there was an exercise to go through and try and identify how many people were sewer only in a member town. And I'm not sure that those numbers in 2008 were correct, but with all the due diligence that our staff, Jason, Dave, and Chris, and engineering has done, we feel very confident that this is the right number. We did it for estimating purposes, Commissioner, in terms of what we knew in 2008, but these are hard facts about what is the number.
I get that. I guess I'm just understanding that at the time we made the decision not to charge these people the Clean Water Act, we knew that there was a fair amount of them in existence. It wasn't the case that we said, well, we don't have to charge anybody who's sewer only because we don't have anybody who's sewer only. We knew we had them and we consciously decided not to charge them.
Correct, and just remember, if you had sewer only, you didn't get a bill because you don't have a customer service account, so you never got a bill. And we had circumstances over the years where somebody had water only and said, hey, what's this bill? And they said, well, we don't have your sewer, and then we made those corrections over the years. So,
So it's a conceivable thought then is to re-examine this at some point because those sewer only people are now going to have a bill.
Yes.
just the $9 a month, not the clean water surcharge.
Yeah, but the $9 is gonna accelerate.
Yeah.
If they're saying 28 is the real number, it's gonna go up.
Mr. Chairman, we just.
Please.
Yeah, on the same subject though, you asked about both, water only and sewer only. So the water only, there's, all the non-member towns are water only, virtually all. There may be a few sewer customers here or there, so the non-member towns, we talked about this last meeting, Scott. The numbers that I was given back in, I think in 2020 were something like 10,000, around 10,000 non-member town customers. And there were like 92,000, between 92 and 93,000 customers that had, and so that made a total of 102 to 103,000 customers of the MDC, water customers of the MDC. And out of the 92 or 3,000, there were about 22,000, or you just said 2,700 or so, that were sewer only. And so that got us down to the total customers that could be charged the clean water charge at about 90,000, somewhere between 90 and 91,000. Does that sound about right?
Well, except that we just said tonight, so the sewer only is 596. So 596 there's about 9,800 non-member town customers. And then you subtract that from the 102,000, and it might be changed, 102,000 customers, minus the 98, minus the 596 is what we have for water, ratepayers that are actually paying the clean water surcharge.
Well, I'm saying it's somewhere around 90,000, but we're going to be able to figure that out pretty soon. And once we get this thing straightened out and we get on the water side straightened out as well. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you. Chris Stone, there was a special act in 2000, I think it was 2019, that specifically excluded non-member town customers from paying the Clean Water Project charge. Regardless whether they have water and sewer, just sewer, they are, because they're non-member town customers, they do not pay.
yeah, I understand, but they also have, if they had water and sewer, they would, which they do in Glastonbury, they have water from us and sewer from the town. they're not paying the clean water charge, even though they have a sewer system, not paying. Only MDC customers are paying the clean water.
Only, no, only NDC customers within the 8 member towns.
Yeah,
Some NBC customers have both, and there's very few, both NBC water and NDC sewer. I think along the East Hartford Glastonbury line,
East Granby
they
has
have water and
both.
sewer. By statute, by special act, regardless of their status as having water and sewer, they do not pay. They're specifically excluded from paying the clean water project charge. And that was part of the resolution of charging them. This goes back to the Glastonbury class action.
Right.
And it was part of a compromise to make sure we were able to charge them a customer service charge. That was what was challenged in that whole lawsuit, so.
What did we have to pay back? There's a statute of limitation payback.
Oh, we settled it for, it was a
18,
class
8
action
million.
suit, and I think it was
8 million and change.
8 million change.
Million, yeah. John.
Further questions on this portion?
So once Jason and Dave's team finished the inventory, if you don't have any more questions for Jason, they turned it over to customer service and billing, which is an area that I manage. No more questions for Jason on the inventory? I'll just let you know where we are today.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Jason. So we were able to, while they were doing the inventory and everything, we were able to go into SAP. We developed the configuration to allow for one customer to be charged multiple customer service charges, so we have that done. And what are our next steps? To Commissioner Mandyke's concerns, we're drafting our letter with communications with Julie McLaughlin, advance notice to the condo associations. I'd like to get those done first, where we have maybe 30 condo associations that account for all of those multiple laterals. And we're actually going to be doing a letter where we identify the number of accounts and give them the exact amount that's going to be increasing on their water bill, so that they can make adjustments to their HOA or whatever they have to do. And we want to give them enough notice so that they can give us a call. So we're going to give them very detailed information. We're going to actually list the streets, if you will, the condo units that we've identified. And we have been going through, we've been updating, now that they put the technical data in, the sewer equipment data, we're actually going into all the assessor sites to get the names of the customer, the names of the owners of the properties. So our customer service staff is doing that right now so that we could actually put in the customers, move them into our system as new customers for those sewer-only accounts, but also we're working on those letters at the same time to those condo associations with their detailed information. So we will be communicating with all of these customers before we implement the billing. The billing part is very easy to turn it on. It's the communication and making sure everybody's aware and giving them an opportunity. I feel we need to give them at least 30 days to understand. Also with the residential customers, actually with both, in the letters, we will identify the fact that we have electronic payment terms, electronic payment methods, that they can go online and register with our Kubra payment portal. They can do auto pay. I know $9 a month is a small, annoying little bill. So I'm hoping that we'll get many to go to auto pay and have that set up to make it as less complex as possible for them. So that was the end of the presentation on this. I can also show you what the bills would look like for each if you'd like to see them.
Yeah, is it possible to have an annual billing option? In other words, could someone just pay the bill? I mean, for the amount in question, it seems to be de minimis for going through 12 payments.
as a group, we had decided to keep the billing the same as any other customer, which was monthly. But it can be, I mean, I don't know if Scott wants to weigh in
Well,
on that.
it doesn't stop the customer from paying.
Certainly, they can
Here,
pay
right.
the full year and they'd have a credit on their account. Absolutely.
All I'm asking.
Yes, sir. Yes, absolutely.
Good question. Thank you. Further questions? Kelly, thank you,
Yep.
and staff, as usual.
And I'm just going to stay right up here for the last part of this presentation, if you
Okay.
don't mind.
Not at all.
Okay.
So, it's just a report. We don't have to do anything
Nope.
magical.
This is the final piece. This is just a couple of rates for
Yeah.
2025.
Oh, I'm
This will be
sorry.
quick, and then we'll be on the
This
next
is a
one.
rate, okay.
Yeah.
Rate change.
So lucky for all of us, because you're probably sick of listening to me, we have only 2 sewer rate changes in the sewer rates for 2025 that we're proposing. Obviously, as we discussed earlier, and Scott stole my thunder, we have the increase to the Clean Water Project charge from $4.33 that is being charged per CCF this year in '24 to $4.57, which is a 24-cent increase in 2025. I do want to note that this charge is actually below the line that was agreed and that we shared with the board in 2022. We had a 10-year customer clean water project charge plan. This is about 10 cents below that plan in 2022. We've kept to that. We kept to that last year. We were about 10 cents lower, and that's after all of the North Hartford work and the changes to the integrated plan. We've been able to continue to monitor and model and get that model verified by a third party. And we've been able to continue to keep that rate about 10 cents lower than we had anticipated in 2022. How did we do that? The deferral of some projects and the addition of the North Hartford work, but the deferral of other Clean Water Project projects out to be able to do that.
Mr. Chairman, meter pit. Now meter pit we are installing, and who are the people who are paying for it?
Commissioner, this charge is on the water bill. So per the agreement with the board and the towns in 2008, the clean water surcharge is applied to the water bill based on water consumption. And that's the way it's paid.
No,
It's been that way from the beginning.
meter pit question,
No, it's not.
$5,500.
I'm about the customer service charge.
I thought meter pit, we are installing our own meter pits, right? Wherever we choose to. So,
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't see that far.
okay.
No, I apologize. Dave can explain, but we have been COVID, prior to COVID, because the MDC implemented its accelerated water main projects, we started.
The sewer one also.
Yeah. We haven't gotten to that one yet. We were-
Yeah, when it's on the sewer rates.
So as part of a convenience for our contractors, we've started to stock these for our own use. So we are providing them to our contractors, so it expedites the lead time for them to order these concrete meter pits.
Thank you. But this is for water.
This is for sewer.
Okay, sewer, sorry.
This is for sewer.
Apologize.
So we do have to install these in specific locations. This is a convenience for our contractors and our developers. We have them in stock for our own use, so we're providing them to be able to purchase them from the district. It saves the lead time and the contractors, it expedites the projects.
If they choose to, right? They can choose to buy it on their own.
Correct. They don't have to buy it from us. It's a convenience.
But we have, to my point, since COVID, we've been stocking up on materials. to the point where the suppliers have to say to others, sorry, MDC bought all the inventory. And then COVID hit, and then our decision to pre-purchase inventory became really smart because you couldn't get it. And so this is just another example of we're providing, we're buying it anyways, and we're just saying if you need one, you can buy it, but it's going to cost you $50 or $100, or you can buy it from some other supplier.
And this is with installation, this is us installing, right? Oh, no, this is,
For a developer.
okay, sorry. And then I do want to point out that the without bypass is not going to be in the resolution for sewer. That was a mistake. That is in the water rates, which we will share with the Water Bureau. There are 2 rates in the Water Bureau that we spiked out this for 2025, but the without bypass does not apply to sewer, so that's my bad. And these are the only 2 sewer rate changes on the miscellaneous rates.
So if I may, just one additional thing. So remember that we have a equivalent sewer user charge for the use of sewer for nonprofits, so churches, any nonprofit organization, because they don't pay taxes. And to Kelly's point, there's no increase in that because there's no increase in ad valorem. So we wouldn't charge them more if we're not charging the towns more. So it's a flat, there's no increase at all in that charge.
So, John, if you would just answer this question. We actually don't need to take action on this because the Water Bureau?
You don't need to take action. This was just kind of a primer. We're preparing the budget materials for the public hearing and for the committees. That'll be posted at the end of this week with the real rates or the rate sheets and stuff like that. So we just wanted to give BPW a heads up of what's coming, so there's no action needed.
Great, thank you. So now, that's item number 4. Item number 5, I don't know who from the staff will address this, but item number 5 is a sewer piece in Windsor Locks.
This is John Myrtle.
Thank you, Ken.
We brought this topic to BPW back in April. We've been in discussions with the town of Windsor Locks and the property owner. Kind of gave you guys a primer of what was expected. But basically, there's 2 parcels of land in Windsor Locks that used to be part of a larger piece that was owned by Collins Aerospace and has been sold off. And when it was sold, the parcels were divided, and these 2 parcels don't have access to a sewer. So they requested to connect to the MDC sewer. Windsor Locks has a sewer system, POTW, the Water Pollution Control Authority, but the town has no interest in serving these properties in the near future. So they requested that we do it. It's the property owners would have to build 1,400 feet of sewer main under the DPA process, and then they would basically be connected to the MDC sewer. In order to do that, because Windsor Locks is not a member town and has their own sewer system, we need an agreement with the town to effectuate that. So what we're seeking is approval of the agreement to enter into with the town of Windsor Locks. It's kind of our standardized sewer agreement, and that would allow these 2 single parcels to connect to the sewer.
There's meters, they're metered, right?
They will be metered, yes. Yeah, if there's any questions, I'm happy to address them, or if you can, a motion to approve the resolution and the agreement.
Okay,
Move adoption.
thank you. A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
How about some discussion before
I'm
we?
sorry. Commissioner Gale, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. One question, John. When these 2 new customers connect, where's their sewer water gonna ultimately get treated in?
The Pequannock plant,
And from there, where's it go?
the Connecticut River.
Okay, thank you. No other questions.
Farmington River.
The sludge gets trucked to Hartford, but the effluent water goes to the Connecticut River.
I'm sorry, what goes to Hartford?
The sludge. So we can't process sludge at that plant, so we truck it into Hartford. We used to have it trucked in for free with an agreement with the town of Farmington, but we now bid that and pay for that service to be trucked into the Hartford plant. But the effluent, the water, the clean water, quote, clean,
Stormwater.
goes to the river.
Great water.
Thank you.
Commissioner Salemi.
Yeah, can you just explain this, the last page, of that they have in the agenda here? You have this business saying that they don't want to be, this is related to this? This is Pearson Lane, that's what we're talking about?
Yeah, different.
That's the next agenda.
The next one, but it's a different,
But it's not the same, it's the same area, same street, or same area or something, or?
the same, no, this is Bloomfield, the next one's in Bloomfield, this one's Windsor Locks connection.
Oh, okay, well, I thought it looked like this, it was the same street, I'm sorry. Okay, thanks. When we get to that one, you can explain it to me.
Okay, we did have a motion on the floor and a second. And we had enough discussion, Commissioner Gale and anybody else? Do it now. All in favor of this approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? No? Very good, thank you. We'll call that unanimous and move on to item number 6.
Again, John Myrtle. This item, there was a layout and assessment approved by the board back in 2016. The project was just constructed this year, and one of the property owners has come forward and is no longer in favor of the sewer project and the assessment. And so attached to the agenda was his written request, which I believe Commissioner Salemi was referring to basically defer his assessment. So what we've provided with the Bureau is kind of two alternative resolutions. It's typically, back in the 70s and earlier, the MDC used to build sewer mains and issue deferred assessments where the property owner would not have to pay until they elect to connect. That process changed, and now the standard is when the layout and assessment is finalized, the property owner the assessment is due and payable whether they connect or not. This property owner, after submitting the request and being in favor of the project, expended a lot of money and improved his septic system and no longer feels that he has a need for the sewer. And so he has requested that his assessment be deferred in the fashion that it kind of used to occur. BPW does not have to defer it, but you certainly can. And I spoke with the property owner. Unfortunately, he's out of the country right now, so he was not able to be here to speak on this, but he did submit his written request. I or other staff can try to address questions, but I'm not certainly going to speak for him.
What's this, for the committee, what's the standard for issuing a deferral under the ordinances? There's specific language that there has to be a finding made.
It is, I thought we had it in the resolution.
Is it in there?
I thought it was. I'll find it.
It may be in the resolution, in the agenda memo, but get that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So I just wanted to add a comment. So we have a proposed resolution that says that we will defer this. Is that, I want to make sure that's what we're talking about doing.
The resolution's in the alternative. There's the first resolution is if you make a finding that there's no special immediate benefit to the property owner, you can defer. The second alternative is you can make a finding that there is a special benefit to the property owner and you will not defer. The staff's not making any recommendation one way or the other.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm asking about. So I thought that, that the resolution said that we were going to defer to such time as property owner connects to the sewer main. I thought that's all we have to do, but you're saying there's more that we have to do.
Just keep reading, Bud, Commissioner Salemi. There's a second part of it. That's all.
I thought they said that they agreed to that. that they understood that the fees might go up, so.
No, there's no question about that. We made sure that the property owner knew that if they defer the assessment and hook up 10 years from now, because their septic system failed again, for example, they're subject to the fees that are in place at that time. And I think they're even going up next year, John, is that correct?
Well, when this project passed, the assessment rate was $53 a front foot. Now it's 100 or 110. So
There you go, okay.
I told him that if you request this and it is deferred, and a year from now circumstances change, your assessment effectively doubled already.
Yeah, and I read their letter, and they said they understand that.
Yeah, because he wrote that after I spoke to him.
Well, what I will say then is I support the deferment of the thing. I think it's a significant amount, so $60,000. They've already made everything on their property work, and I assume that, is it Windsor or Windsor Locks? Windsor is okay with the septic system, their health director or whatever's okay with septic system. So I'm just going to say that I support the deferment.
I said Bloomfield earlier, I apologize. It is.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, excuse me, Commissioner Patel, I was going to recognize Commissioner Avedisian and then Commissioner Patel.
Quick question.
Please.
did we have more than this customer? And if that customer drops out, what happens to the rest?
So there are 3 customers on this?
5 total.
5 total. So when we presented this a long time ago, we've talked about these issues. Typically, the assessments are only in the range of 20 to 30% of the project, a very minimal component to the overall cost. But there's, so 4 are signing up and 1 will not. I don't know what the total is, total revenue, Susan? $165,000 would be, and how much is the total project?
About 1.8 million.
1.8 million.
Under the Amtrak railroad.
Right.
That's what's taken so long here.
Right.
So the district's picking up that $59,000.
We're picking up 1.8 million and we're getting 100 and change.
Commissioner Avedisian.
Just out of curiosity, Scott.
Yeah.
Reading the second paragraph. So there's got to be more to the story when it says the MDC did not contact them for 10 years, so they had to do whatever they had to do. I mean, is there something else behind it that we don't know about?
So 2016, the project was approved, and if you've ever had to deal with the railroad, it is a nightmare. And obviously, it is what it is. We finally got to the point where we bid the project. It was awarded. Who's the contractor that got awarded to?
It's Paramount.
Paramount. And in the process of getting ready to award that contract, we got notified from the property owner that they would like us to defer. So he did have a major problem with the sewer system, and over the time he had to improve it, so he bared that expense. So he asked us to bring this in front of the board.
Well, the only reason I ask is I may be asked by someone on the council about this, and it says not communicated to us by email, phone for past 10 years. I mean, you must be just making it bigger than it is, because I doubt you would not contact it for 10 years back then to
He was
communicate.
in contact, he's been in contact with our staff, I know, over the past several years. I don't know if there was a 10-year span where he wasn't in contact with us, I'm not sure, but we did have, as I said, there were about, we've been dealing with Amtrak since 2017 on this, and what really brought Amtrak to the table was we had another issue that we had to deal with them on, and they started making contact with us on that other issue, we said, hey, what about this too? And, we were able to get some movement from them. It's just been a little too late for, this property owner, though. In the meantime, though, a couple other people have are for the project. The radio people past him are now ready to hook up, and the property just before the railroad is going to hook up. So we do have other people that are going to experience the benefit that weren't previously for the project. and it's under construction right now.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
I
sorry,
just want to,
Counsel.
I just want to emphasize, our experience with Amtrak is delay after delay after delay. Example would be the Clean Water Project when we were doing the not the Clean Water Project, I'm sorry, the Homestead Avenue project in Hartford. Our pipe, our micro tunnel went underneath the track, delay, delay, delay. And anybody who's been in the public works business trying to deal with Amtrak is not an easy task.
Thank you.
So,
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Torres. Yeah,
Sorry,
I think
sorry.
that, yeah, I would support deferring this assessment. I don't think that it, you know, the folks, you know, asking for the deferment have been patient. They had to do what they had to do to deal with the problem. They couldn't, you know, it's no fault of their own. You know, I don't see why we would not want to do this. I think that everybody's trying to do this in good faith. They did what they had to do because they had to solve the problem to no fault of their own. You know, we got delayed. We had to deal with other parties that delayed our being able to do this. So, you know, I don't know that we should even continue to belabor the issue because I think it's, in all fairness, this is what should happen.
Commissioner Torres, would you like to make that motion?
I would,
And include the words that we will defer in the motion.
yes. I would move that we accept the deferred assessment and that we vote to approve the resolution.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Patel.
staff, if we discontinue the project and we said we awarded the contract, can we terminate at some point so in the future, if this property changes the name on another use, at least we can provide services?
Commissioner, the project is in construction as we speak,
Okay,
and we will provide a service lateral as we build this to the property line, so that if, in any case, someone wants to connect,
Makes
they
sense.
will, it'll be there. We won't have to dig the street up,
Yes.
and it will be just pure cash for us, pure cash. 150,000.
Very good. We still need a second.
Second.
Good question.
Thank you. All in favor of deferring?
Commissioner Gale's question.
Oh, yes, sir.
Just picking up on something that was stated earlier by our counsel, our esteemed counsel. Should we include in this motion a finding that on the basis that there will be no immediate, is it immediate benefit to the owner?
I think if you, I believe in the resolution itself, Commissioner Gale, it speaks to what you've determined by passing the resolution. You've determined that there is sufficient basis to defer the assessment.
That's,
Let's see.
In the bold at top, it's not in the resolution itself, but it says if the Bureau finds there is.
Oh, that if there's a sufficient basis.
Yeah, it says if
Resolved.
the Bureau determines. So I'm just suggesting that we make that
Oh, you
determination.
make that fine. I think passing the resolution, you make it, but we can certainly be more explicit and indicate that you have made that determination, and it's based upon that determination that the following resolution is moved and seconded, and then you just take the first
Resolved
part.
issue.
You take the first part of the resolution. Point well taken.
All
I
good?
think we've made the record, yes, thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposition?
The resolve issue.
Unanimous. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. You
Okay.
wanted to
Yeah,
address
I know
two
we're running
points.
out of time. I apologize. There's just three important things I'd like to mention because we won't meet again and when some information, public information comes out. So, as you know, we've talked a lot about the development Bushnell South, which is Capitol Avenue, and there's about 1,000 apartments with multiple developments occurring. The most recent one is 55 Elm Street here. There's going to be another one right behind it, 65. We've been working with Mike Freeman, CRDA, with this whole concept of on-site stormwater storage required by the city's ordinance and the state. And like we did with Arrowhead, like we did with Albany and Woodland, we basically said to the development, listen, instead of you spending money to comply with this on-site storage for stormwater capacity is required by the city and by the state, quote, give MDC that money and we'll share in the cost of building a new storm pipe that can serve that development. So we were successful. The board approved the Arrowhead, Albany Avenue, Woodland, Kenyon we're still working on. We're trying hard on that with new developers. But Bushnell, we're looking at approximately a $4 million project to put in a new storm pipe right down Capitol Avenue, right down Hudson. It might go down west, but we're not quite sure yet because it hasn't really been designed. But basically, initially, the developers and Mike Freemuth had suggested they would be willing to contribute about $1.6 million. That would be what the equivalent of them putting in the on-site detention systems for all 5 of these developments. We pushed back and said we think it's more like 2.1 million. We've met here and said, listen, if you're in agreement for $2 million to share in the cost of developing that, we'd be willing to bring that to the board. So CRDA is working on that with financing. They're working on it with their board. If they so decide to do that, then we'd obviously bring it back here and to the full board for an agreement, just like we did with Arrowhead. And then one more thing, we have received the draft of the North Branch of the Park River study. MDC staff is reviewing that. The city's reviewing it. We're giving everybody a chance to figure out what it says. And we haven't yet had a chance to get back with the city yet, but we'll do that in the next month. We're also planning to have the second negotiation with the mediator from EPA in the city of Hartford on the MS4 permitting, and we're scheduled to have that mediation the 30th and 31st of this month. And then one more thing, we do have an ordinance that we're proposing, and it's important to say it here because we've talked about it at BPW and the full board. If we remember the development in West Hartford, the 1700 Asylum. So the logic of that development was the developer wanted the ability to connect to our sewer system. And we applied the logic of the wet weather problems. And what we said to that development and the city is, listen, we have enough capacity to serve this development in a dry day, but in a wet day, it's going to impact the surrounding community adversely, and we're not willing to accept that liability. So if you're willing to pay us to reduce the wet weather equivalent to your dry weather flow, so there's a net neutral impact to our system, we'd be willing to agree to that. We brought that to the board approved that, the town approved it, the developer gave us $400 and some odd thousand. What we're trying to do in writing is to perfect that very scenario in an ordinance. And so this does not apply to Hartford. Hartford has a different animal we have to deal with because it's a CSO community. We have the stormwater management issues, the 6.14, the state. So it doesn't apply to Hartford. It's only to the non-member towns that have wet weather. Now remember, wet weather is illegal in 7 towns. You're not supposed to, by our ordinance, you're not supposed to by the 7-member towns. Some of the towns have more stringent requirements, ordinances than others, but you're not allowed to discharge inflow from basements into our sewer system. So this ordinance gives us the ability to let development occur in those non-Hartford towns by compensating the MDC for removal of inflow from our system so that development can actually connect. So this ordinance, we've gone on 5 or 6 different versions of it. And John, we finalized it today. That's going to be published Friday. So we could send it out as a draft to the commissioners?
Yeah,
Or?
I mean, I think we need to finalize it, but
Yeah,
it'll be ready.
but we will get it out to you, but I just want you to know that it is not for Hartford. It's only for the, so we're defined, we're defined, well, we're defined by EPA in the state of Connecticut. Hartford is a CSO community. We're permitted as a CSO community. The other 7 towns are SSO communities. They're separated sewer systems. Therefore, illegal to dump stormwater into the SSO system. The same thing applies practically in Hartford, except it's not illegal to dump stormwater into the sewer system. It's just a capacity issue. And that's why we're doing these agreements with Arrowhead and others to Bushel South to partner to offset it. But we can't say this ordinance cannot apply to Hartford because we can't violate the permit. The permit says it's a CSO system. You have to allow for stormwater to go into the system. It just becomes, do you have enough capacity in that one pipe in that location? So this ordinance is just for the regulated, separated communities, sewer systems, which are our other 7 towns. Not, and obviously we don't have a lot of wet weather problems in East Hartford, right? We don't have every town's different, but we're just trying to make sure that whenever we connect a development to our separated sewer systems in those 7 towns, we're not adversely hurting a customer, residential business, up or downstream from those new connections.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Commissioner Patel.
National South storm pipe which we are installing and agreeing to share the cost. When you let it out, do we have the capacity to take it beyond that point?
Yes, Commissioner. The goal for Bushnell South is the majority of the piping that comes from Capitol Avenue down to Hudson. We will upsize the pipe. That goes from a $2 million to a $4 million project. And that'll allow us to run that pipe in the future up Hudson and start to separate that area around the hospital. So that will be the benefit for the whole, for the district, is that the foundation will be there to expand our separation areas upstream.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Curry.
Can I suggest that we hold questions on this until the ordinance is finalized and presented to us, and then we can ask the questions? We're already 10 minutes behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we don't need to respond to that. We do have an opportunity for any public comments. I don't know if we have a public member on the phone. I don't see any in the room. None that you know.
There's
Okay.
2 phone numbers, but no.
Okay, fine. So we'll move on to the next to the last item, which is any commissioners want to forward an agenda item for the future.
Any activities on the stormwater authority, we should start talking seriously about.
Point of
that
question,
business.
point of order. These questions have to wait till the ordinance comes out.
I would take that as an agreement to move on and discuss it at some future time.
Okay.
When it makes more sense. We have more information. Thank you, Commissioner. Sorry.
Adjournment.
Yes, move to adjourn.
Move adjournment.
Done.